Alright, wow, what the fuck? Okay. That's weird. Let me fix that. Boy, I love it when technology fucks up. So I was almost like, should I pull an O'Reilly? Should I pull an O'Reilly? Hold. Let me get some white back. There we go. I don't know why that's the first thing to fuck up. But I need my color back. I'm blue. No, I'm not. I'm not anymore. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys, for just the technical fuck-ups. Shit happens. You know. Part of running an online show. Sometimes the rule is it's going to explode. Sometimes the stream blows up. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time, I'm very happy that my stream does not explode. But I guess on occasion it cannot be, you know, can't be perfect, right? But we've got more stories. So obviously we're gonna run way over time. That's fine. We've got two more stories that I wanna do. Puerto Rico, and of course more revolving door stuff. So that's always fun. Oh man, I probably don't even have my thing set up here. Oh, I do. Cool. All right. Okay. Now, Puerto Rico has officially ended its contract with a controversial energy firm linked to the Interior Secretary. Now, according to reporting by The Hill, Puerto Rico's state-run electric utility said on Sunday that it has accepted the governor's request to immediately cancel a $300 million contract with a small Montana-based energy firm called Whitefish amid mounting controversy over the deal. Now, I'm going to explain what that is, but first, Ricardo Ramos, the island's Energy Authority executive director, announced the decision during a press conference according to ABC News. Now, the decision followed another press conference on Sunday in which Governor Ricardo Rossello called for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority to immediately cancel the deal, and of course, not long afterwards, that's exactly what they did. So, excellent. They canceled this horrible deal, which was incredibly costly to a company that was ill-prepared, to say the least, to actually tackle the problem. Now, let me get into the deals, in details into why this deal was so controversial. Now, for one, PREPA cut the deal to repair Puerto Rico's electrical grid on September 26. That's just a couple of days after Hurricane Maria hit the island. At the time that the storm hit, Whitefish only had about 2 employees. 2. Why would you hire a company to restore infrastructure, especially one so incredibly damaged by a storm? Why would you hire a company with only 2 people? They seem like they wouldn't be up to the task. Like, that's the company that you call when a power line goes down in your block. Like, oh man, there's about 5 houses here that doesn't have power. Let's call Whitefish. Not the island of Puerto Rico. Or what they were claiming, oh, it wasn't the entire island, it was just a 100-mile stretch. No, don't worry about it. We can handle it with our 2 employees. Come on. And our $300 million contract. Again, I'll get into why it's this contract is even more outrageous. But first, obviously, when people started to look into the deal, they found some really strange things in it. They're like, hey, wait a minute. What they found is that Whitefish just happened to be located in the hometown of Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. That's a strange connection. A little bit of a strange coincidence. There's more. Whitefish also is the name of the town. That's fairly obvious. And the guy who runs it also happened to be Ryan Zinke's neighbor, a man named Andy Tekmansky. Now, the two obviously seem to have known each other, and Zinke, of course, his son, even worked a summit job at one of Techmansky's construction sites. So I think from that information alone, you can understand why they got this gigantic deal. And even more startling than the in-your-face, obvious corruption were the terms of the deal. So now I go to Ken Klippenstein, working for the Daily Beast, who outlined these terms. Here's their pay. $79.82 per person for food each day. Dude, there's no effing way somebody can eat $79 of food. It gets worse. $332.41 per person for accommodations each day. That might make a little bit more sense, but that's basically saying you're going to get a super, super fancy hotel, a hotel suite per person, and more than $40,000 for helicopter-related services. The costs so far are astronomical. Now, I guess it's good that they only got 2 people. Imagine if they had an employee of 10 people. Woo, boy, that'd be expensive. That'd be $790 per day on just food alone. That's insanity. Okay. But even worse, like I said, these provisions in it, it states that in no event shall government bodies have the right to audit or review the cost of profit elements. So they have these super expensive provisions built in there. And then they go and say, ha ha, you can't audit us. You can't actually tell what we were spending. Joke's on you. Ha. We're draining the swamp, folks. We're draining the swamp. We're draining the swamp. And that the Puerto Rican government, quote, waives any claim against contractor related to delayed completion of work. Jeez. Okay. Now, I have to remind you, too, Puerto Rico is already broke. I mean, this was before the storm. They were actually facing a huge financial crisis before Hurricane Maria. And this guy and this company had over a $300 million contract. And this is over $300 per accommodation per person each day, $80 for food, and helicopter-related services. You've got to be kidding me. No, this is obvious corruption. And just look at it. It's ridiculous. And here's one more thing. Now, if you think that this company somehow won out, like where they were in the free market, this competition between companies who they think would do better, right? And Prepa chose this company, Whitefish, because, well, they're just, I know they're expensive, but good God, they do such a great job with their 2 employees, and they're a fantastic company. They come highly recommended. Highly recommended. No, they didn't have any sort of competition for the bidding at all. Prepa and Whitefish signed the deal with a no-bid contract, which apparently was guaranteed that FEMA had reviewed and approved it, a characterization the agency denied. So, like, here's a no-bid contract. Don't worry, FEMA signed off on it. Go ahead, Whitefish. Have fun. Enjoy your $80 food per day. Obvious corruption. It's in your face. It's in your face. They're waving it around and they're laughing. Yes, they're actually laughing at you. Right to the bank. Look, obviously it's a bad deal, but what's worse is that it shows that there are people out there who, even after a tragedy, will use that tragedy to their advantage in order to fill their own pockets. I mean, look, a month after the hurricane hit, less than a third of the island still has power. About 30%. Now, again, that's disastrous, right? But again, the good news is now, at least now we can say that this deal is over with, thanks to, of course, the power of journalists and activists that are pushing to actually get to the truth of the matter, that did their due diligence and they found a lot of weird things about this company, and we're like, oh man, whew, yeah, we need to check that out. We need to figure this thing out and fix it. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now that they don't have a contract with Whitefish anymore, they can actually go and maybe find a company to restore their power that actually can do the job and actually get it done and get it done fast so that these people can get back to their lives. And that's what this is all about. It shouldn't be about the money, or shouldn't be about the contracts. It should be about doing a good job, getting the job done, and getting people's lives back to normal as quick as possible. Okay. All right, let's roll into our last story here. Let's talk revolving door. The Trump FDA has hired a new communications advisor. According to CBS News, the agency recently hired Nina Devlin to fill an agency position. Now, Devlin happened to be a former Mylan senior executive. Now, I'll get to that in a minute. Now, Devlin, who used to be head of global communications at Mylan, was reportedly hired on October 15th. Now, so the FDA is like, we need a communications person. We're going to reach out to the industry and take Mylan's communications director and put them into our administration. Not a problem, right? No, there's happens to be a couple of problems with that, at least in my opinion. For one, this is kind of what the swamp looks like. Remember, the Trump administration, they are the swamp. He wasn't going to drain the swamp, and I think that was fairly obvious to a lot of people from the get-go. But like I said, here's the swamp, here's another industry executive inside of a government agency, but it actually gets worse. Now, her hire comes roughly 2 months after Mylan had reached a $465 million settlement with the federal government, stemming from a Justice Department claim that it overcharged the government for the EpiPen. Now, Mylan, of course, got in trouble for it seems like a long time ago, but it was actually just 2016 during the election, of overcharging for EpiPens. Now, EpiPens are, they're a potentially life-saving medication. So all it is that it's a epinephrine, which costs like less than $1 to make, inside of a special injector that makes sure you get it injected into the right place. If it's not, it could potentially cause fatal reactions. And if you don't have the EpiPen, if you don't have that epinephrine in the right time, that could also cause fatal problems. So, oh boy. So it's kind of a necessary drug. Now, Mylan's like, yeah, we know it's necessary. You know what that means to us? Cha-ching. Here we go. We're going to go and overcharge the government. The government's going to pay. Because the government, has to put it in schools for people who have peanut allergies, for example. So they want to make sure that the schools are stocked. So they get into they buy this. I don't know if there's a contract involved in this, but they essentially buy these EpiPens from Mylan Pharmaceuticals and put them into the school. So because the government's a big customer, these guys are like, hey, let's overcharge the government. So they got in trouble for that and paid $465 million. Now, what's interesting is the company's like, well, we didn't actually overcharge them. We're not guilty of that, but we're going to settle anyway. They claim innocence. Okay, look, you can settle and be innocent. That's understandable, right? Now, I think in this case, even if Mylan had been innocent of, price gouging or overcharging, and say that was the case, if it went to trial, even the implication is terrible for PR, terrible for your brand. So I think as part of brand awareness, they would be like, well, we'll settle anyway. I don't think that they're innocent. I do think that they overcharged, but I'm just laying out the scenario of which they would settle anyway and still be innocent, and the reasons why. But anyway, Mylan, of course, couldn't afford another PR disaster, especially after they got called out for jacking up the price of EpiPens to over $600 for a pack of 2. Now, that story, of course, made major headlines. I covered it here on the show. And there's a lot of people that were justifiably outraged. Now, the company, later on, they promised, okay, look, we're going to change that. We're going to figure out a way to lower the price or make some special deals. They ended up delivering nothing. It's still about $600 for a pack of EpiPens for most people. Though I do have to mention that there are a lot of manufacturers, drug manufacturers, that will say like, oh man, if you can't afford our product, well, that's okay. We'll give it for free to certain people. Fair enough. And I guess it's better that they get it through that than not at all. But still. Now, anyway, you might wonder why hire someone from Mylan? I mean, I get hiring from the industry, but I don't like it because of the revolving door, and let's be honest about that. And there's a reason that you're more likely to back things up that help your former employer, especially if they welcome you back to your company once your stint in government is up. But for Mylan, I guess that seems a little strange given how they just settled this suit for a large amount of money. I wonder if there could be any other reason. Oh, right. Mylan CEO happens to be the daughter of a congressman. Oh, interesting. Now, that's Heather Bresch, Joe Manchin's daughter. But some of you might point out, rightly so, but wait a minute, Joe Manchin is a Democrat. Corporate Democrats especially love to harp on, hey man, well, look, he's a Democrat, but Bernie Sanders isn't, so maybe Bernie Sanders shouldn't criticize Joe Manchin. Ridiculous. Look what kind of Democrat Joe Manchin is. He's the most conservative Democrat in the country, and it's actually not been very critical of Trump. Has actually welcomed Trump's help when it comes to the opioid epidemic, and I'll mention that in a minute. So the person that the administration decided to hire for this post says she wants to go after the opioid addiction. Now, I actually do believe that because it is a problem. We've got an epidemic on our hands, so we should do something about it. And I welcome all the help, that anybody wants to offer, as long as it's good help, as long as it makes sense, to try and do something about it. Wonderful. Now, the interesting part about Mylan is that they were actually a small part of why there is such a massive problem with opioid addiction in the first place. In fact, back in March of this year, the Senate opened an investigation on 5 different manufacturers to determine what role they had in creating this epidemic. Now, these companies are Purdue Pharma, Johnson & Johnson Janssen Division, Insys, Mylan, and Depomed. In 2016, Mylan apparently ranked as the number 17th supplier of opioids sold in the U.S. Now, that actually represents about 1% of the entire U.S. opioid market. So they're actually not a huge part, but still a part, to be fair. So, yes, I think that, sure, Mylan and Ms. Devlin probably do want to stop the epidemic. I believe that. Now, it's also likely that she wants to advance the interests of the company that she seems to work for. You can do both at the same time. I'm just saying. Now, federal investigators, interestingly enough, found something else on Ms. Devlin. Apparently, she was involved in allegations of insider trading against her husband. So, federal investigators had accused 2 men of making trades based on tips about pending mergers between 2008 and 2005 from Matthew Devlin, a former Lehman Brothers Holdings Incorporated broker. Now, investigators say Devlin misappropriated the information by listening to conversations of his wife, Nina, an executive at public relations firm Brunswick Group, LLC, who worked on mergers and assessing her travel schedule. According to documents, Matthew Devlin shared tips with friends about transactions, including Novartis AG purchases of Eon Labs, InBev MV's purchase of Anheuser-Busch, and Electronic Arts' unsolicited bid for Take-Two Interactive. Devlin, however, Nina Devlin, was not implicated in wrongdoing. In fact, she was called the Golden Goose because of the value information that was obtained wrongly for her. So, look, this information, while not exactly damning, isn't great either. Without actually going and relitigating the case, we do have to assume that Ms. Devlin was a victim here. And, of course, this now is her triumphant return, becoming a part of the Trump FDA, who are already staffed by industry insiders. At worst case, I believe that this is the revolving door in action once again, showing the tight bond between both government and industry, and showing how tight that bond actually is. So, if anything, new swamp, same as the old swamp. A swamp is a swamp is a swamp. And that's unfortunately what we have in the Trump administration. So, anyway. Okay, that's all we have. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Believe me, that's the last thing I wanted to happen today. But thank you for those who came back for sticking with me. So, if you haven't already, please give us a like and please give us a share. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the show. Thank you to the patrons, and thank you to you at home. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.